stay seated during the duration of our speaker, please help me enthusiastically welcome Juanita from Gilbert.
Sorry, I still get thirsty. It's water. Prescott. Wow. Thank you, Mike, for asking me to speak here tonight. It certainly is an honor and a privilege. My name is Juanita Trujillo, and I am an alcoholic. Born and raised in Arizona. So I've seen this place grow. I've also seen AA grow too. My sobriety date is October 28th, 1995. And I got to tell you, I'm so grateful that was the last time I ever took a drink. And I was very, very defiant. You know, I first tried Alcoholics Anonymous in 1988. And I remember going into my first meeting, and I just remembered I didn't want my skin to crawl anymore, and I just didn't want to feel bad about myself anymore. And I drank myself right out of a marriage, and you know, I lost my kids, you know, through the state of Arizona. And I just remember coming into my meeting. My first meeting was at the Mesolano Club, and it was an 8:30 meeting, and there was a gentleman by the name of Blackie Colleen, and may he rest in peace. And he said, you know, welcome, this is your family now, and if you want what we have, you know, then you ready to take certain steps. And I just went, okay, what kind of steps? He said, well, you know, you're going to get a home group, you're going to get a sponsor, and you're going to work the steps. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I want it that bad, you know. And I'd come to meetings periodically, but then eventually I would go back out and see, because I wasn't ready. I didn't want what you had. So today, you know, I want to tell you I have a home group, and it's a big book step study. It meets Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock in Ahwatukee, and it's called Primary Purpose. And it's at 48th Street in Elliott. So if you ever fancy yourself out there, we'd love to have you. It's a serious but kind of fun group, and we strictly work out of the big book. I mainly go to big book studies now. The only reason is because I just remember being 15 years dry this time around, and you know, I was ready to off myself, or you know, and I was out of a second failed marriage, and you know, and I didn't know what to do, and I said, God, you need to do something before I do. And you know, and I'll tell you that story in a little bit, but I just remember going to big book studies, and you know, there's one in particular that Georgia Cook had started, and we were in that book diligently, and it made me fall in love with that big book all over again. And you know, that's when my life began. You know, I didn't have to take a drink. I didn't have to take a drink in order for me to have my sobriety start all over again. But this time with, you know, a little bit of, you know, spirituality mixed in with it. And what had happened was I turned my life to God at that time. You know, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and trying to manage my own life. And I did it to the ground, you know, stone cold sober. I don't recommend it to anybody, but you know, that's my story. And you know, so about 15 years sober, I just remember my life began then. So I have a home group, and I have a sponsor. Her name is Connie. She knows she's my sponsor. And you know, about a year and a half ago, I was told that something was wrong with me. And I had a sponsor by the name of Rosalind Gline, and she was at Desert Palms. That's where she lived, and it was pretty convenient for me because, you know, it was a phone call and a FaceTime, and we do step work, through that way, and I didn't have to see her, she didn't have to see me, so there was no accountability. And, Juanita, there's still a little bit left in me. We're stubborn, and I'm abstinent, and I just want to do my own thing. And when I was told that, I had stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, and that I didn't have very much time, and that was in November of 2022. And I just remember the only thing, I sitting there in my car looking out through the windshield, and I just said, I need Connie. I'd like to have Connie back. And I remember praying, and I called her, and she said, I said, I need you back. I was told I have cancer, and I need you back in my life. And she goes, why did you fire me? The sponsors go through those questions, like they kind of drill you. She kind of goes, why, what, where, and how, and when, and I said, I told her, I'm sorry, I promise. And she goes, all right, dang it. We're going to do this again, but don't you ever pull that crap with me again. And I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry. I will, I promise. I'll be a good girl. And things have been great ever since. But, I'm very close with her, and she's very close with me. And, I want to tell you something about Alcoholics Anonymous and what I love about this program, that if you stay in the middle of it, no matter what's happening, it's kind of like I actually fell right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 15 years sober. And, things started falling into place. I had a better attitude at my job. They weren't tired of working with me anymore. They were like more or less happy to see me. And, and I was getting along with a lot of other people. And, this program was just working in my life in all areas. My family pretty soon didn't tolerate me. They were happy to see me. You'd be surprised, what happens. And right in the middle. And then when this situation happened, my illness, I'll tell you, the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous just came and swooped me up. And I have not wanted or needed a thing. Therefore, I am so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous and for what it has taught me. It has taught me to just keep coming back. I didn't know what that meant. All I know is that I just didn't want to live underneath my own skin, and I just didn't want to drink anymore like I drank. And, and God showed me a way where you people were loving me until I could love myself. I have a home group. I work with other women, even still to this day, once or twice a month. East Valley Intergroup has the AA hotline. I take that on, because even though, I'm done with chemo and I'm just taking regular cancer treatments, there's something that goes on at 3 o'clock in the morning with the human psyche, and I'm awake for that 3 o'clock in the morning phone call. I need help. I can't stop drinking. What can I do? And when the medicine and the doctors stop working, God kind of shows up, and then he tells me exactly what I need to do. And I'm always forever trying to get out of myself. Because when I came into AA the first time in 1988, it was all about me. It was all about me. What can I get out of it? What exactly do you have to give me, and how much do I have to do this thing to be happy? What do you mean I can't date for the first year? Are you crazy? And you get these crazy suggestions, and, and I had a choice, and I always chose the way out, the easier, softer way, and pretty soon I would end up face down somewhere, not even knowing what happened the night before, and I just said, oh my God, I did it again. But, staying in the middle of AA, it just showed me a way on how to deal with life on life's terms, without picking up a drink and without picking up a weapon or without picking up anything, even men. I have a pretty, I gotta get my little good luck stuff here. I have a handkerchief from Michaeline, and I've got this thing from Georgia Cook before she passed, and and I keep them with me close to my heart. I want to thank my friends here that have been here. And Pam, thanks for driving us down, even though I thought you were going to kill us a couple times, but that's okay. It's okay. I'm just kidding. She's a really good driver. I'm just very critical. I'm sober enough to keep that stuff to myself. So I'll just wait before until I get behind a mic. You almost killed me. No. And then I have a, Joy. She's with me. She's been with me for, almost 11 years, and I've sponsored her that long. And, it's amazing how she stuck with me. And when I was diagnosed with this, she's been like Velcro, stuck to my hip. And everywhere I go, there she is. And I'm ever so grateful. I'm ever so grateful. I have two sons. And their name is Jeffrey and their name is Tim. And they're both in their diseases as well. And, they're struggling. They're struggling right now. And, I got to tell you, there's another 12-step program that I affiliate with, in order for me to stay out of their way and focus on me. It's like as if I have enough on my plate, I always find a way to put a little bit more on, just like I did out there when I was drinking. And, and it's their problems and their situations and stuff. And mom just wants to make things better, and it just doesn't work that way. But what I've learned about Alcoholics Anonymous is that I can't help my kids, but you can. And so when they're ready to do this thing, luckily, there's like 143 meetings in the East Valley, and they're more than welcome to join any one of them whenever they're ready. And, you may not be able to help your kids, but I can. It just goes that way. That's what AA does. It's there, the responsibility prayer. Whenever anyone, anywhere reaches out for help, we want the hand of AA always to be there, and for that, I am responsible. And so that's why I take the phones. That's what I do. I didn't want to, and I don't want to try to spend a lot of time with the drunkalogs, but I will tell you how I qualified. I would have never imagined that anyone would ever want to hear my story, much less me talking. And, when Mike Bennett had called and he told me, Allison gave me your name and number, and I'm like, I thought, okay, it's an honor, and let me do this. Let me see if I can. And it was a day-to-day thing. It's like with what this illness does to me, it's chronic. I'm going to have it for the rest of my life, they tell me, and it's just like alcoholism. I treat it by going to meetings and being of service. And with this cancer, I treat it by going in every 3 weeks and getting my medicine. It's kind of like spraying down the weeds so the weeds don't come back, because the cancer's all over. I may not look like I have it, but it's there. But I don't want to act like I have it. I don't want to look like I have it. I want to be able to say, I can help you. What is it that I can do for you? I remember being in the hospital last December. They found a blood clot in my lung, and I had a viral infection, you name it. It was a list of things. And I had 42 visitors in 6 days. 42. 98% of them was AA. And what I did was, barely breathing and coughing up a lung, I just go, never mind about me, I want to hear about you. Tell me about you. And I'll tell you, every time somebody came in, that was just about an hour or two where I didn't have to think of myself. That's what AA has done for me. And I'll tell you how I got started. When I took that drink at the age of 13, I don't remember much after that, and I don't remember how much I drank. But I do recall that something had happened. Something that happened with a bunch of guys, and I don't, things happened that it shouldn't have happened. And I remember I was ashamed, I was embarrassed, and I remember going home and cleaning myself up. My mom said, you smell like booze. And I'm sitting here saying, I don't know why, and I always seemed to want to get out of what was happening and the troubles that I got in. And high school wasn't like something where they tell you that you have rules. You have to show up for class. No smoking. no drinking, no skipping classes. Well, I guess the rules didn't apply to me. So, I either got expelled or suspended or whatever. Every time, something was always happening every month. And then my mom was so worried that she took a job at the high school. That ruined my fun. But I'll tell you, it was one of those things where, you always find a way. And that's how my alcoholism was. Even up at the time when I got married the first time, he was in the Army, and I was a housewife, and we had our first child. And we didn't mean to, but he was there. And, and he was we were stationed at Fort Hood, Texas. And, it was the type of marriage where when he got off work, he never came home. And when he came home, he was drunk. But I was kind of that Al-Anon then. I would count every beer that he takes. And, I was up, all in his business. And, I was miserable. I didn't want to be a mom. I didn't want to be a housewife. I didn't want to do all these things. Nothing made me happy until that one golden moment where somebody gave me a Mickey's Big Mouth. We were at a party. I was really happy. And, and what turned out was I went somewhere, my husband went somewhere, and we couldn't find our kids or my son for a couple days. And that's just the way it was. That's how I drank. That's how I drank. And I would swear every single time I would go to the bar or I'd go to a party. I mean, I've even made myself a designated driver so people can drink, but they always ended up driving me home, carrying me to the car. It's just that way. I could not stop once I started drinking, and things did happen. Juanita would get pulled over, Juanita would get yelled at, or I would get beaten, or I would do something. Anyways, so that was the way it was for me. We had another son, and then from that point on, he went off to Germany, and we had 2 boys. I came back home to Gilbert, and conveniently, I forgot I was married. And he's in Germany doing his thing, and I'm down here doing mine. And, let's just say that I lost a lot of babysitters because, they said, when I say it'll only be a few hours, they didn't mean a few days. I couldn't seem to quite get a handle on controlling my drinking and being around people that I shouldn't be. There's other stuff that was involved, some other mind-altering substances, but that came into play because I wasn't done with my drinking. I always heard this certain stuff, you can drink longer, whatever, and that's the case. That was just insanity through the whole thing. And he eventually came back, and we found out that, we kind of hated each other, so we parted ways. And I left with the kids, and I managed to pick up a 7-year hostage. My sponsor called him a hostage. I called him a boyfriend, but she called him a hostage. And, when I did that first 4th step, and I gave her this, this is what happened, this is what it was like and what it's like now, she just went, wow, you got some cleaning up to do. And, I managed to make a couple amends, and at that time I had warrants in 3 counties in Arizona. I don't know how I did that, but I did, and I had to clean those up, and I got my license reinstated, the whole 9 yards, and, I was just willing to do just enough to get by, And I'm going to prove my point. I'm going to make a point here. I don't recommend anybody coming into AA with a better idea other than what's in this book. Because every single time Juanita went to AA, I managed to have a better idea of what is in this book. The first 164 pages of this book tells me exactly what to do, how to do it, and how to live my life without picking up a drink. And Juanita seems to think, well, maybe I should go left. I know you told me to go right, but let me give this a try. And then Juanita cops resentments. See, what had happened was I didn't have that total psychic change. So I already told you what kind of a mother I was. I already told you what kind of a wife I was and what kind of a daughter I was. I can't tell you how many times my parents lost sleep, for me running around and running away and, endless nights of sleep. They couldn't hang with me anymore. And I just remember the day that I became convinced. I managed to pick up another husband along the way. I divorced the first one, and then I managed to pick up another husband. I was about close to 5 years sober, and I was going to meetings, and I was kind of going to, calling a sponsor, if I'd like to call her that, and I wasn't doing everything that, is very well suggested, There's a lot of us that run around that do that. I seem to have sponsored quite a few of them too, but God seems to have a sense of humor at that. But I know for me, it's just I fell in love. We got married. This is how Juanita gets a husband. You date him for 2 months, and then you marry him. So soon after I got married, this is where my last relapse came in. And how that relapse happened was I copped a resentment. My self-centered fear came in. And then before I knew it, I was in a treatment center, and they had me tied to the bed. And I said, I'm sober. She said, no, you were sober, sweetheart. So I stayed 30 days in this treatment center. And I'll tell you, after what has happened, I look back at my life and I saw that I didn't do a good job. So I come crawling into Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, I want what you had. I want what you have. And I give up. And I got a sponsor. I worked the steps, and the steps worked me. And I got to tell you, if I hadn't had that total psychic change, the things that were coming into my life at that point in time after, I don't think I would have made it. I don't think I would have made it at all. So I went ahead and worked the steps, made amends, and got into service work. Except, I was kind of a little pain, I was arrogant. I was, my ego was just out of control. My husband and I, we were doing really good. We were well off. I was into service work. I didn't have to work. And so what I did was I kept busy doing service work, but I wasn't getting a thing out of it. But I made darn sure that you people knew that Juanita was in the room. And I was arrogant, I was egotistical, I gave you my opinion whether you liked it or not, and I had no idea how people tolerated me. They tolerated me. There's a big difference between practicing tolerance and then tolerating, and these poor people tolerated me. And I remember going into, committee meetings and whatever they suggested, I said the opposite. And if I didn't get my way, well, darn it, I'm gonna leave that position. And my sponsor looked at me and she goes, "You will do no such thing." And I'm like, "Well, you can't tell me what to do." And she said, "Yes, I can." And I went, "Whatever." And she goes, "Okay, well, then I'll let you go." And I'll go, "Okay, I'll stay." So it was just that tug of war, that self-will. Georgia came moving back to town, and and she came back from Oregon, and her and I reconnected, and we got real close. And her name is Georgia Cook, and her and I got really, really close. And eventually she would periodically go, "Do you know how angry you sound? Are you listening to yourself? Why are you so justified?" No matter what the deal was, if you told me the sky was blue and I thought it was gray and you told me I was wrong, I wore that stuff like a suit, people. I'm going to tell you, I was miserable. Yes, I was miserable. That emotional sobriety was out the window. It was not there. And when she got sick and they told her she had cancer, colon cancer, and she was terminally ill, she said, "I'm going to ask you to do me a favor." And I said, "What's that?" She goes, "Can you help me die?" I kind of went. And she goes, "I want you to be there for me. Can you help me? Can you do this for me?" Well, I was right in the middle of getting a divorce from husband number 2. We were married for 18 years, and he decided he didn't want to be married to me anymore. We both lost the ability to work. We both lost the ability, and I managed to get a cosmetology license in the midst of this marriage, and so I learned a trade. I had to go back to work. His liver got really bad, and so he needed to go to interferon treatments, and I didn't recognize my husband after that. His personality had changed, and, it was him deciding on how my day was going to be depending on his mood. It was just like I was enmeshed into his stuff. And this is where they said, Juanita, you really would benefit if you go to Al-Anon. You would really, have you tried it? And I'm like, yes, I've been there, done that. And I took the steps, and they said, maybe you need to work it again. Howard Pollin's wife, she became my sponsor. Her name's Pat in Al-Anon, and so I stuck with her, and I went to meetings with her, and I worked the steps. And what I noticed was there was this part, and it's beneficial for me today as an alcoholic. And I can't help but to speak about Al-Anon while I'm sitting up here, because it has saved me more ways than one. Is that, when they said I didn't cause it, I didn't cure it, and I can't control it, that part where you say you didn't cause it, it relieved me from so much burden and pain, not only because of my husband, but because of my children too. So I started learning how to deal with life in a different way that I didn't think was possible. And at the same time, the sponsor that I had, working the steps with my sponsor at that time, it was getting up to close to 15 years. And, Georgia eventually passed. And I'll tell you, I was living in Gilbert at the time. I had separated from my husband, and I was living with my folks, and she was living in Tempe, and she wanted me there every day. And I was like, God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I got a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning from Georgia, and she said, hey, Juanita, they're selling that mobile home next door to me. It's been renovated for $2,000. I said, I got $2,000. So I talked it over with my sponsor, and I talked it over with my folks, and they're like, okay, let's go see it. And it had to be kind of like one of those under the table kind of things. My sponsor said, because at that time, my husband and I had filed for bankruptcy. Our house went into foreclosure. My dog of 14 years had passed away. Our motor home, our fifth wheel, our boats, our toys, everything was gone. My business, I had a shop that was connected to my house. His construction company, it was gone. You want to talk about doing everything that you're supposed to do in AA. And then this is the thanks I get. And that was my attitude. It was like, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I've been good. I've been in service, and I'm sponsoring women, and I'm going to meetings, and I'm doing a good deed. I paid off my debts, and I was going on, and I was so angry. I was so angry, so angry. And I just remember just sitting there, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And the thought crossed my mind, and it wasn't a drink. It was the other. I talked about we abhorred suicide, because I didn't want to do this anymore. It was too much work. I just remember standing there, and then I remember writing these. I was really writing suicide letters, you guys. I was writing to my kids, my mom, my dad, my sponsor, my best friend at the time, saying, I'm sorry, but I have to do this. And at that time, I wrote them all out, and I had a good, I was slinging snot, and I was crying. And then all of a sudden, my cousin comes in, and he barges in, and by then, Georgia had passed away. So I didn't have anybody to really talk to, and I kind of shut myself off, not only from the sunlight of the Spirit, but by the community of Alcoholics Anonymous as well. I was very angry. my cousin flamboyantly just comes marching in and goes, "Are you ready to go?" And I'm like, "Where are we going?" "Well, we have the family reunion, honey." I said, "I'm not going." He goes, "Yeah, you are. Just go put some mascara on because you look haggard. And just go get dressed and then we'll just go." And I went and got dressed and I came out to the living room and he was noticing and he had a few of those letters in his hands and he was reading them. And then he looked at me and I looked at him and he went, "You ready to go?" And I said, "Yeah." He didn't breathe a word. Something happened that night. When I was at that family reunion, I tried to make myself as distant as I could, like I did with AA and like I did with everybody else. And I remember my mom looking at me. Now, this isn't a relationship that has been estranged for many, many years. And my father was estranged for many, many years. And Alcoholics Anonymous mended just enough for my mother felt just enough courage to approach me. And she said, "I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what's happening. But I just want you to know that I'm so happy to see you and I love you and God's going to take care of you." I said, "Okay, that's it. That's it." So I let her hold me for a little bit. I went home. I tore those letters up and I called my sponsor. And we met the next day and she goes, "All right, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you ready? Do you want what we have? And are you willing to go to any length to get it? Are you done running the show? Are you done?" I said emphatically, "Yes, I'm done." So that's what happened. I worked the steps one more time. And I started looking at life from a different point of view. Things were happening. The divorce became final. My kids were in and out of my lives like I was with AA in the first few years, you know. They only, whatever they wanted, they tried to come and get whatever they wanted. When they couldn't get it, they were out. They were gone. I get it, though. I get it. I get it. You know, they're alcoholics, and I get it. And the only thing that God has given me the ability is to love them without resentment. You know, to me, that's a gift in itself. And it's the only one that I can get from God. And I just remember that day, I just said, you know, okay, I'm done. I was going to meetings. I got into service work. And, you know, I was sponsoring women. And, you know, and I was being asked out. You know, for some reason, I was unapproachable. I didn't date anybody. I didn't go with anybody for like 5 years, you know. We were separated in 2010 and 2015. You know, our divorce was final. Neither one of us wanted to let it go, but we had to. It was just not a conventional marriage. And I just remember I wasn't asked out. I wasn't going anywhere. But then Juanita started taking care of herself, looking pretty good. I was asked out, and I would just break the date and stuff. And my sponsor, Connie, she's like, "Why do you do that? Just don't go out with these guys. Leave these boys alone. If you don't want to go out with them, don't lead them on, blah, blah, blah." And I started crying. And I'm like, okay. And I'm going through my phone. You know, Facebook was starting to get really big at that time. And I was scrolling and scrolling. And I was looking at friend requests. And then I saw somebody and I went, wait, who is that? And I looked and I accepted his friend request. And we started talking online. And you know, we met the 25th of June of 2015, and Juanita's in love again. You know, So we dated for 2 months, and we got married. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm no quitter. So I wanted to see if it was going to work. That was the shortest marriage I ever had in my whole entire life. 16 months went by and I looked and I went, what the heck did I just do? What happened? You know, and Connie goes, well, you know what to do. You know, and I found out some things about this man that I didn't think that was happening and was possible. It got real scary and real dangerous. And went to the courthouse and filed for a divorce. My girlfriend and I were there, and then, You know, it was about a month after I filed for divorce, and Connie goes, "How you doing, kid?" And I go, I'm a little PO'd right now. I'm sick of this, Connie. I'm just sick. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of this, and I'm sick of men, and I'm sick. She's like, "What's wrong?" I said, "I feel like I'm Elizabeth Taylor. I'm in and out, in and out, in and out, you know, and just like I am with my drinking." She goes, "Yeah." I was like, you know, pretty soon the courthouse is going to know me by my first name. "Hi, Juanita. Is it a divorce or a marriage today?" Either way, it's going to be $483.62. Pay at Windows C. So it's like, okay. So, needless to say, I think I learned my lesson. Here's the deal. I stopped painting those red flags green. I stopped answering the door with my wedding dress on. And I stopped meeting the dudes with a U-Haul truck. So the way dating is for me today is I meet him for coffee in a very heavily populated place. But he don't know this, but I have this mental checkboard here. I think the last date, didn't I tell you? He said to me, he goes, "Well, it was so nice meeting you, and you know, I'm so glad that we're going to have dinner together finally." And then this is how he stopped. He's in the program. He says, "I have a really bad temper." Check. And then as it goes on, you know, I just noticed that I will not settle for my self-worth being gambled anymore. And the result of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, living the traditions and the concepts have taught me to be a better person today. Not just to other people, but to myself. I don't have to settle for anything, and I don't have to give them a line of bull for them to be impressed about me. This is what you get. This is me. This is me right here. Real deal. And I'm okay with that. I'm very okay with that. My emotional sobriety kind of kicked in, and it was kind of like almost a couple years right before COVID had hit. You know, got hit with COVID in 2020, that darn near killed me. You know, I had it with pneumonia, and I had it for a long time. Wasn't a long time. I had it for a long time, and, you know, and it happened again in 2022, and, you know, and husband number 2, the one that, you know, he had asked me to marry him several times after I got a divorce from husband number 3, and I'm like, you're glutton for punishment, aren't you? You know, but may you rest in peace. I didn't kill him. COVID did. Yeah. He got really sick. My friends and I were at State Line, December 2021, and I had a really bad feeling. We were talking with each other. I had a really bad feeling. He was in the hospital. Really bad feeling on the way home. And on December 13th at 2:30 in the afternoon, he had finally expired, and God took him home. And to God and Alcoholics Anonymous, I was able to be there. I left work and I went there and I sat there and I sat with him until they wheeled him away. And the celebration of life happened, and I didn't go because I got COVID. I was able to say goodbye to him the way God saw fit. And, you know, things started happening. I moved in with my son moved in with me. We ended up getting an apartment. And I was feeling really tired, and I was feeling really, you know, lethargic. I was healthy at that time. I was going to the gym, and I was taking care of myself, eating right. And then before you know it, you know, I have my regular checkup, my mammogram, you know, bone density and stuff. You know, I'm 61, for Christ's sakes. You know, this kind of thing still happen. And they told me I had cancer. The test came back, the PET scan came back, the MRI and stuff. And they told me that I had, if I didn't do anything, that I would have 3 to 6 months. And before all that happened with the PET scan, I asked the radiation doctor, just so be curious, if I don't do anything, he says, you have a year. And then when I found out the cancer had spread to my pancreas and my liver and my blood and tissue, they said, if you don't do anything, you'll have 3 to 6 months. And I said, all right, God, what do we do? What do I have to do? I got way too much to live for. God's granted me sobriety, recovery, a life worth living, my family, my sponsees, my friends, grandchildren. I said, I want to see them grow up. What do I have to do? And I'll tell you, the thing that I saw when AA came into action, there were people coming by. Pam would bring me soup, and Joy would be there every day with me. And I'll tell you, what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous is that somebody from somewhere, from someplace was there with me. And if that ain't God, I don't know what is. So when I was able to go to meetings and I was able to do the things that you folks are doing, I'm even able to, drive to Prescott, to come here and let you tell my, pathetic little story and tell you that I'm a drunk, I drink, and I don't anymore, and I worked what you told me to do, and this is what I get right here. I'm sober, I'm alive, and God's really good, and I still have a sponsor. I'm still doing everything that I'm supposed to do. It's a necessity. It's a necessity. All I had to do was surrender to win. That's all I had to do. Keep it real simple. And for those of you that have gotten the early chips, congratulations. And for the ones that have with their milestones, congratulations. But if you're new here and you don't know what to do, it seems like a really fine group. I can say that you guys are like my family and go anywhere in the world and say that if there's AA here, it's my family. These are the people that I fit in. I've never felt more at home. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. I don't know what I said tonight. I don't know if it made any sense. All I know for me, I'm grateful to be an alcoholic, and I'm grateful that the steps work, and I'm grateful that I was able to follow directions without, going into a screaming Mimi fit anymore, and that I'm just here. Thank you for having me, and God bless you all.